Okay. So, one thing I would like to tell you, which is an important feature which I actually missed. So, the issue that Neela was facing today. So, whether in both cases in multidimensional SSAs as well as tabular SSAs, when you're deploying or processing a multidimensional solution or a tabular solution, so let's say any multidimensional or tabular, let me open up the solution. So any multidimensional or tabular solution that you are trying to deploy and process, so both of them will have a data source, and you need to connect to your data source using an account while processing. Okay, so which account will you use? In most of so we have configured our multidimensional solutions as well as we have configured our tabular solution to use the service account, the SSA service account. So we will use the SSA service account to connect to our data source. So so if so that it is a very important step that if you are using the SSA service account to in your multidimensional or in your tabular solution. So like for example, if I go to model existing connections here, this is my data source connection. I go to edit, and here I go to impersonation. So I'm using the tabular service account to log in to AdventureWorks DW 2012. Similarly, for multidimensional, I was using the multidimensional service account to log into my data source. So these accounts, whether it is multidimensional or tabular, so if you're using the multidimensional service account or you're using the tabular service account, they you need to give access to your data source. You need to give access to these accounts to your data source. If you do not give access to these accounts to your data source, then it will give error. So this is a very important step. I think I forgot to mention it, because if you miss that step, whenever you try to process and you have set it as service account, it will fail because that user does not have access. So if you do not know what your SSA service accounts are, you can go to start all programs, go to SQL Server 2012, configuration tools, SQL Server configuration manager. So here you have say for multidimensional SSAS, my service account is this, and you will be able to see what is your service accounts from here. Okay, for multidimensional SSAs, my service account is MSOLAP $dev01, and for tabular SSAs, my service account is NT service / MSOLAP $tabular. So if I'm using the service account for multidimensional SSAs and tabular SSAs, I need to give these two accounts access to my data source, which is AdventureWorks DW 2012 in this case. So if I go here, you will see that these accounts already have access because I gave them access in my previous training sessions. So if I connect to my database engine, if I go to security, and logins, you can see that these two accounts are already there. NT Service MS Solab Dev01, MS Solab Tabular. Okay, and you can see here that this is the account. Actually, so here you can see this is my MS Solab Dev01. So here I've given sysadmin access. So if you give sysadmin access, that is the highest level of access. So it will have access to all the databases. So if you do not want to give sysadmin access, you can also go to user mapping and give access to individual databases if you want. Okay. So this is a very important part. So when you're setting up your, when you're setting up your SSAS, tabular SSAS or your multidimensional SSAS, this is one step which you will have to do. So if you're using the service account, that service account needs to be added, needs to be given access to your source database. Yes, you can use any other Windows account as well. So using the service account is the general practice. That is why I've used the service account. But if you want to use some specific Windows account, that also you can use. But again, if you are using a specific Windows account, you would have to add that Windows account and give access to that Windows account. So that Windows account should have access to your source database. But yes, you can, like, see, if you want to use some other Windows account, go to model, go to existing connections, go to edit and impersonation, and instead of service account here, you use the specific Windows username and password. So, but whichever Windows username and password you're using, that particular user should have access to your source database. If that user does not have access, then again it will fail while processing. So yes, you can use any other Windows user account and password other than the service account, both in multidimensional and tabular. You have to go to impersonation settings and set it accordingly. But usually, most of the time, generally, service accounts are used. So that is why I showed you how to add the service account. And usually by default you might not, that service account might not be added to your source database. So you would have to do that task. You would have to make sure that whichever account you're using, that account has access to your source database. So you will be able to understand it when you're processing, because at the time of processing it will give you an error like login failed for user so and so. So you'll be able to understand that the user that you're using, that does not have access to the source database. So it will give that kind of an error. Login failed for users so and so. Okay. That was about one of the configuration things which you have to do when you're working with multidimensional SSAS or tabular SSAS. Next thing is yesterday the we covered partitions, perspectives, action. So today now first thing what we'll do is we'll create a time intelligence measure and show you how we can create a time intelligence measure in tabular SSAS, and then we'll create a KPI out of it. Okay, so let me go to my internet sales. Okay, let me open the solution which I was working on. So this was the solution. Okay, so this was the solution that I was working on. So I will go to my fact one of the fact tables, fact internet sales, and I will create. So in this fact internet sales, I have this sales amount. Okay, so I have created a measure internet sales amount which is nothing but a simple sum of this column. Okay, so how you can create these measures, sum, count, distinct count, what you need to do is just highlight, just go to column, auto sum, and uh, so let's say here this is a simple sum I have done. Let's say for tax amount you want to create a sum, so just go to column auto sum. I think this is highlighted due to some reason, so that is why. Let me close there. This is the issue with tabular SSAS. Sometimes it gets highlighted and it becomes a problem to undo it. Okay, so here you can see that this measure is a sum of sales amount. Now let's say I want to create another sum of my total cost. So I'll just highlight it. So you go to column, you go to auto sum, and here you can see these. You can create a sum, you can create average, you have count, distinct count. So distinct count of the values, max, min. So very easy, you can just create like this. So let's say um, so these are my products. So I want to take a distinct count of my product keys. So each product key is one product. So the number of products, what I'll do is I'll take auto sum and distinct count. So this will give me the distinct count of product keys. Okay. And so this will give me the total number of products. Okay, so you can create measures like that. Total number of products. So I'm just taking the distinct count of the product keys. And then, so you can see that it is showing as 158 total. So now if I want to just format it, just press F4 on that cell, and then I can format it as decimal number, whole number, whatever. So this will be total number of products, which will always be a whole number. So if it was a decimal number, I could have selected a decimal number, and I could have taken how many decimal places also I can specify, whether I want to include thousands separator, that also I can specify. So here, as you can see here, if F4, so it is currency, so it will show dollar and sorry. Okay, so it will show in dollars as it is currency, and it will show two decimal places. And also you can see here show thousand separator false. So like you have 400120. So it will show 400 comma 120 like that. If you set it to true, otherwise if you set it to false, it will not show a thousand operator. So I will set it to true. Okay, all right. So this is the way you can create simple measures. Now let's say I want to create. This is my internet sales amount, my total internet sales amount. Now I want to compare this internet sales amount with my previous year's value. So let's say if I'm looking at the internet sales amount for May 2015, I want to see what was the internet sales amount in May 2014. So here I will create another measure, which would be my last year internet sales amount. Okay. So and then when I create a measure, I need to put a colon and then a equal to sign, and then I need to write the DAX expression. So the DAX expression that I will use is for this. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention here, I will use a time intelligence function. So if you're using a time intelligence function, then the first thing that you need to do is you need to configure your date table for to be able to work as for time intelligence, because for time intelligence it will refer to your date table. So it is important, if you do not make these settings, then the time intelligence functions won't work. So you have to go here. So you have to go to order date. Okay, so these settings or configurations are very important if you want to use time intelligence. If you do not do it, then the time intelligence functions won't work. So you have to go to table. So this is my order date. So I have to this is already, actually I already did it yesterday. So ideally by default what happens is your date table, it will be like this. You go to table, you need to do this configuration. So you need to go to your date table. So whichever is your date table you will be using for time intelligence, go to date and then click on this mark as date table. Then it will ask you that which column would be your unique identifier. So which column value will be your unique identifier for your date. So in our date table, the full date alternate key, it contains the entire date, the exact date. If you look at the date table, dim date. So if you look at the date table, this you can see that full date alternate key, it has it contains each date. The date key is not exactly in the date format. This is in the date format. So we will take this key because it uniquely identifies each date. So we will take this column. I have other columns here as well, but I will take this column which uniquely identifies each date. Okay, as my unique identifier. Click on OK, because based on this the time intelligence calculations will be done. So I save this. Now I go to my fact table. So now I will be able to use my time intelligence functions here. So here now I can write last year internet sales amount. Okay, after typing in the name, you need to put a colon and then an equal to, and then you write your DAX expression. So here I will write calculate. So I will calculate what the sales amount. So I can either write internet sales amount directly here, or I can write some calculation like sum or average or count, distinct count, whatever. So I will take sum of this column sales amount. Okay, so I will do a sum of the sales amount column, and there for which, so now after okay, I have to close the bracket, and now you can see calculate expression. Now I have to put, in calculate you can put multiple filters. So I will calculate the sum of sales amount for my last year. Okay, so for that I put a comma. Now I will put the expression which will give me the dates for the last year in the current context. So I will use a function called date add. So here in DAX we have a function called date add. Then I will put the dates. So the dates is the date column in my what do you say, in my date table. So this will be nothing but my full date alternate key in my order date table. So this column gives me all the dates in that order date table. Okay, and then I will put a number which I can put any number. So I'm looking for previous year, so I will put -1. So if I put +1, I will go forward from the current year. If I put -2, I will go 2 years back. If I put -3, I can go 3 years back. So that is the number of intervals. And then I put a comma, and then what is the interval? So if I want to see the past last year, then I will put year. If I want to see the last quarter, I will put quarter. If I want to see the last month, I will put month. And from the current day, if I want to see the last day, I will put day. So here I'm seeing I want to view the last year value, so I will put year. Okay, now I'll close the bracket for calculate. Okay, one more thing you need to check is the column that I'm using here, full date alternate key, that should be of type date. So I think it is of type date, otherwise it would have given me an error. So let me check it, confirm it again. So if I go to full date alternate key, highlight it and press F4, you can see the data type is date. So you have to select a column which is data type date. If it is of data type something else, then it will not work. Okay. So I have now the last year sale. So this will give me the sale in the last year. So this will give me the sale for May 2015. This will give me the sale for May 2014. Okay. Now let's say what I want to do is um, now let me first deploy and process this. So I right click, properties, not process. So right click and deploy. So I have set it to do not process, so it will only deploy, not process, and then I will process it. Okay. Now I will go to my management studio. Right click on this, click on process table, process full. Okay. Now, now if I go to this database and browse it, okay. So now I'll connect to Excel. Okay, now I will take internet sales amount. Okay, I will take last year internet sales amount and so I'll take the order date hierarchy and then see if the last year measure is working. So here if you see, if I look at 2007, this is my internet sales and this is my last year. So last year, what was this was the value 2006. You can see here, this is matching. The same value it is showing. The only thing I forgot to format it here. So I press F4. So here I highlighted, press F4. Here what I do in format, I select currency. So now it will go two decimal places and okay. So now if you right click and deploy, okay, you don't need to process because the data is the same. So I'll just sorry, it got hanged. Okay, let me close it and open it. It got hanged actually. Okay, so now if I go to my browser, browse, so you have internet sales amount, last year internet sales amount, and you take the order date hierarchy here. Okay, so you can see here that for 2007 this is the value, for 2006 this was the value, and it is matching with my last year amount. Now if I go to the quarter level, for quarter 1 2007 this was my value, and for quarter 1 2006 this was the value. So this is also matching. And if I go to the month level, you can see for February 2007 this was my value. This is my value, and last year's value is this, and this is matching with February 2006. So my time intelligence function is working fine. Okay, so now what I will do is, I will create a KPI the same way we had created a KPI earlier, but I will take the value as the internet sales amount, and last year's amount multiplied, I will add 10% to it. So I will multiply it with 1.10. So for that I will create a new measure called internet sales target. So this will be nothing but last year's amount multiplied by 1.10. So this is equal to 1.10 into last year internet sales amount. Okay. So this will be my internet sales target. I press F4. Here also I will make it as currency. Okay, so this will be my internet sales target. Last year's amount plus 10% of it. Now I want to create a KPI. So what I will do is here I will right click and click on create KPI. Okay. So here I will create the KPI on internet sales amount. Now define target value. I can define a target value here, like maybe 20,000 or whatever. I can create, I can create, specify an absolute value as a target value. But what I'll do is I'll make it dynamic. So I will take last year's amount plus 10% of it. So I've created a measure for it, internet sales target. So I will take this measure. Okay, now I need to specify that till what percent it will be red, yellow, and green. So let's say for 85%. So let me select this. So for till 85, so if it has reached the target, so my target is 100%. If it has reached the target or if it is above the target, then it is green. If it is between 85% to 100%, then it is yellow. If it is less than 85%, then it's red. Okay. So this is so that is what I've configured my status. And here I can, if I can put a description for KPI value status target if I want. Click on OK. So you can see here the symbol of a KPI is showing here. Now I right click and I deploy. Okay. Okay, so once it is deployed, so I need to process it as well. So right click, process table, process full. Okay, so now I click on refresh and reconnect. Okay, and I connect to Excel. Okay, so I'll take, so if I go to my KPI, okay, and I select my value and then my goal. Okay, let me pick up the hierarchy here, and then I pick up my status. So if you see here, so for, see, for quarter 3 for July 2008, this is my internet sales amount, and I will compare this with July 2007. So July 2007, this was my internet sales amount. Adding 10% to it, my target is this much, and I am way below the target, so it is showing as red. So here the quarter level also I am below the target, so it's showing as red. Okay. Now here you can see when you talk about August 2007, this is my value. This was my target, so I'm above the target, so it's showing as green. Okay. So this is how you can create KPIs in tabular SSAS. Right. Okay, so the next thing is like processing. Like when you are processing this tabular, here also you have different options. So you have the process default, which processes from the that state, process full which process from scratch, process data which process only the data, process clear is it clears everything, process defrag is just defrags the data, defragmentation. Okay, so these are the different process options. So here also, if you want to automate it, the best way to do is to by creating an SSIS package. So I will create an SSIS package which will process this tabular model. But one difference here is that in your multidimensional SSAS, it is a very distinguished, dimensions and measure groups. They are separate and it is very distinguished. Here in tabular SSAS, you will see that when you select measure groups, all the tables will show as measure groups, and when you select dimensions, all the tables will show as dimensions. So it will be confusing that which one should I process as dimension or which one should I process measure group. So ideally I would say the better option is to go ahead and process the database completely, and SSAS will in itself it will decide how it will set it up, it will process each table accordingly. So you don't have to decide which are my dimensions, which are my measure groups. SSAS will do it on its own. So you can create a project, integration services project. Okay. So here also the same way you can pick up this analysis services processing task. Okay. And if you go here, go to processing settings and then let's add a connection manager. So here I will write localhost/tabular because I will connect to my tabular database. Use Windows security, and I will process this one tabular underscore training test connection. Okay, okay. So now if you add, you can see here, if you add the dimensions, you will see that all the tables are showing as dimensions. And if you go to your cubes, you can see all the tables are showing as measure groups as well. So that is a difference in multidimensional model. Dimensions and measure groups are separate. Here, every table works as a dimension, every table works as a measure group as well. So you can use each table both as a dimension and as a measure group. But you don't need to process them two times. So there is no requirement of processing the tables two times. So better what I do is, instead of deciding should be the dimensions, what should be the measure groups. I process the entire database, and SSAS automatically does everything. So I don't have to decide that these are my dimensions, these are my measure groups. So I will do a process full of my database, and I will set this to parallel. Sorry, I'm processing settings. So I will change this to parallel. Okay, okay here. Okay, so now if I right click and I execute package, it will process my entire database, all the tables. Okay, so it is done and it has processed all the databases. So this is how you can here also you can create an SSIS package and then use it for processing. Now we will discuss the security aspect with respect to um, tabular SSAS. Now, when you create the tabular SSAS, here also you can this is also role based. So either if you want to make someone the server administrator, the same way you have to go here, right click, properties, go to security, and then add that user if you want to make that user the server administrator. Okay, so you will have to add it here, same way as in case of multidimensional. But if you want to give access only to the database, so then also then it becomes role based. So based on the roles you can give that kind of access. So let's say you go to roles here. Okay, now you create, let's say you have so same way I will create three roles. So one role is, let's say, for my project managers and permissions. So here you have different type of permissions here. So you can give uh, if you give administrator access, they can do anything on this computer. Okay, so you can see that all data is visible to users in this role. So this becomes grayed out. So in the members, you can add whichever user group or user accounts you want to add. You can add it from here and then click on OK. So this will give you administrator access to this database. Second is, let's say I will create another role for analysts. Okay, and I will give them read in process. So they can read the data from the tabular as well as they can process the data. So here also DAX filter is customized robust filter that I will discuss. Here in members also same way you can add the Windows username or accounts, and that the users of this role, they will be able to read the tabular database and they will be able to process it. Now let's say the third role is users, and to the users you just want to give read access. So you go to row filters and members. So let's say I have one account here which is my test account. So I will click on add, click on test here, click on check names, click on OK. So the test user account, he will only have read access to this database. Okay, I click on OK. Okay, so the test user account will now be able to read this database, but only read. The test user account cannot process it. The test user account cannot make any additions. They cannot edit anything. So they will just be able to read and browse the database. Okay. Uh, Now let me just show you how we can configure the DAX filter. So let's say if I go to users, so this is my read access. Now I want to I can make some more customizations to this access. So let's say I want the users of this role to be able, so in dim geography, um, if you go here, and if you browse, so if you let's say I'm using my account, so I'm a server administrator, so I have all the access. So I take internet sales amount, and I'm taking say from dim geography, I'm taking the English country region name. So I'm able to view the internet sales of each country. Okay. Now let's say for the test user, what I want is he should only be able to view United States and the data for United States and Australia, or he should only be able to view the data for United States and France. So no other country he will be able to view. So for that, what I will do is I can go here, go to model, roles, select this, and here I have dim geography. So here I will write a DAX filter equal to English country region name equal to United States, and this is an AND operator in DAX. English country region name equal to France. So this is country region name United States and country region name France. Okay. So I save it and then I deploy. Okay. Now if I go here, right click, let me refresh it, right click and browse. So right now I am connected using my account and I am the server administrator. So I have full access. So if I go to internet sales amount, I go to dim geography, English country region name. Okay, I can see everything. Now I will browse using the user role. In the user role, I have specified only that it should only be visible for the countries United States and France. So I will change user to the role. So I will take users. Okay. So now I take the measure here, internet sales amount. Oh, I think that there is. So I think for United States and France, there is no data combined. So what I will do is I'll go to roles, go to users. Here I will only select United States. Okay, I will only select United States. So they will only be able to see the data for United States. Right click, deploy. So now you go here, right click and browse. Okay, now you change to this roles, users. Okay, so now I'm browsing the queue using the credentials of users. So I take fact internet sales and I take the English country region name. So you can see I can only see the data for United States. I am not able to see the data for the other countries. Okay, if I change using my credentials, I'm the server administrator, so I don't have that limitation. So I can go here, internet sales amount, then geography, English, country, region, and so I can see the data for all the countries. But there I put the DAX filter, so that is why. So it will only show the data for United States. Okay. So this is how you can implement security in tabular SSAS. No, no, it is not group by only. Yeah, you can say group by. So if I put equal to United States over that particular column, all the other rows that it has, leaving United States, what the other rows that it has, it will not have access to those rows. So it will only have access to the rows where the country is United States. So the rest of the rows where the country is France or Germany or whatever. So for those rows, it will not be able to access it. So you're limiting the access, the security, so that the users of this role will only be able to view the data for United States. Okay, it's similar to, it is kind of similar to the cell level security in multidimensional SSAs. In multidimensional SSAs, when we implement cell level security, it's the same kind of thing we do. Here it is a row based filter, that is also cell level security is almost the same thing, same kind of thing in multidimensional SSAs. Logic means, see, there are in your fact internet sales, there are let's say 10,000 records. Okay, in your fact internet sales table, there are 10,000 records. Out of those 10,000 records, there, so every sale has a customer. So out of those 10,000 records, maybe 2,000 records, the customers of 2,000 records are from United States. The rest of the 8,000 records, the customers are from other countries. So when you are browsing using this user, they will only be able to view the data of these 2,000 records. So where the customer is of United States, they will not be able to view the other records. So for the country United States only, it was showing the sales amount. For the other countries, it was not showing because it does not have access. Yeah, but customer is not in customer is in picture. Why? Because if you look at the relationship, customer geography is not directly related to internet sales. It is a reference relationship via customer. So if you open the solution, yeah, right. It's a snowflake. So internet sales has a customer key, customer has a geography key. So via that customer dimension, geography dimension is related to internet sales. So if I restrict that geography equal to United States, it will only display those records for which the customer key is has a geography key, and that geography key belongs to United States. Okay, so it's a referenced snowflake relationship. Yes, if it was a direct relationship, yeah, you can say that it is group by, because yes, based on that column, you can view that data. But it is just limiting access. Don't want the users of this. If you do a group, so you don't want the users of this role to be able to access the data for other countries. So it is like you're putting a security on the access to the users. Yeah, it is. Yeah, right. It is kind of group by. So like, let's say if you take a country and you see the internet sales for every country, it is group by. It is kind doing a group by for that country. Okay. All right. So now the last thing that we'll discuss is like when you're creating reports. So I'll just discuss a few basic DAX queries. So when you're creating reports out of the tabular SSA solution, you can create reports using you can write when you're querying the tabular SSAS, you can query using um, uh, you can query using MDX, or you can query using DAX. So MDX we have already discussed. So I will just run through some basic DAX queries and show you how you can use DAX queries as well to query your tabular SSAs. So previously, for multidimensional SSAs, we only used to use MDX queries to query. Now, what Microsoft has done is Microsoft has made multidimensional SSAS also compatible with DAX. So you can also use DAX now to query multidimensional SSAs. So now you have two options to query your multidimensional SSAS and your tabular SSAS. You can either use MDX or use DAX, either one of two. So we have already discussed MDX. So now we'll do a little bit of a discussion in DAX. Okay, so how we can query using DAX. So the queries that I will use, I've already put that in OneDrive yesterday. So please, if you haven't downloaded it, just download it from OneDrive. And then we will just it's just a few basic DAX queries, not a lot of queries we'll discuss. So it will take 15-20 minutes. Okay, not more than that. So let's take a 5 minutes break. In the meantime, you just download the DAX queries from OneDrive, and then we'll just discuss a little bit about how we can write DAX queries with Tabular SSAS. Okay. All right. So I guess you've already downloaded the DAX query file, which I uploaded in OneDrive yesterday. Okay, so we'll just run through a few DAX queries. You can also query the tabular SSAS using MDX. So MDX we have already discussed. So you can use MDX as well to query your tabular model. But I will also just go through the few DAX queries and show you how you can query a tabular model using DAX. So both the options you have, you can either query it using MDX or DAX. Sorry, I opened the MDX file by mistake. So here I will the database I've selected AdventureWorks. Here I will select a model. So here you say in SQL when you say select star from and then a table name, so it returns you all the rows of that table. So similarly in DAX we have something called evaluate. So don't worry about this red squiggly line. So it comes, so no issues. So and you need to run this on the same MDX window. So the DAX queries, you need to run it on the same the window where you used to run your MDX queries. So it is the same window where you will run it. So there is Microsoft has not created any separate window for DAX. It is the same window as in MDX. So if you right click on it and go to new query and go to MDX, so you will open this window where you can write the DAX queries. So this evaluate internet sales, it is something like select star from internet sales. It will return you all the rows of internet sales table. So let me run this query. So you can see here it is still executing. So it gives me all the rows and records from the internet sales table. Okay, evaluate internet sales. Now what I'm doing then in the next statement, next query, I'm ordering these records by the product key. So I'm using the order by clause. So you can see here that this is the product key. So I'm ordering by product key. Okay. Now there is a very commonly used summarize function. What the summarize function does is it is similar to a group by statement in SQL. So what is this internet sales table? It will group by using the sales order number and it will group by using the sales order line number. So the combination of these two, similar to group by in SQL. So that is what it does, and it will return only the sales order number and the sales order line number. And then I am ordering that result by sales order number and sales order line number. So ideally this would return me all the sales order numbers and the sales order line numbers, because the combination of these two will provide me each one record in the fact internet sales table. So every record in the fact internet sales table will be returned, but it will return only the order number and the line number. So you can see here it is returning only the order number and the line number. Then what we are doing is, in the summarize table, this data set, in the summarized data set, we are including more columns like the product key and the order date. So you can add more columns here in summarize. Okay, so here you have the order number, the line number, the product key and the order date. So in the next query that we have created a measure named total sales amount. And what is that total sales amount? Is the sum of the internet sales amount. So let me execute it. So you can see here, this is the product key, this is the order date, and I've created a measure called total sales amount, which is the sum of the internet sales amount for this order product key and order date. The sum of the sales amount. So till now we have used all the columns in the internet sales table only. Now what we'll do is we can also use we are using in this query, we are using a column product name from the product table, and we are using calendar year from the date table. So you can also, in your query, you can also use columns from other tables, provided your main table, that is internet sales, this is your main table, this is related to these tables. There is a relationship between these two tables. Then you can also refer to the columns of other tables, like similar to using a join in SQL. So when you use a join in SQL from one table, you can use the columns from another table using a join. But provided that there should be a join between those two tables. So here also we are internet sales and product name, this is coming from product table, but there is a relationship between internet sales and product on the product key. And similarly we have the calendar year and the date table. So there's a relationship between internet sales and date table using order date key. So it is like similar to join in T-SQL. And so we are joining these two and we are bringing the columns from these two tables. And internet sales amount is getting calculated from this table only. But you cannot use any other table which is not related to internet sales. There has to be a relationship. If the relationship is not there, then it will not work. So you can see here, this is the product name, this is the calendar year, and this is the total sales amount. So for all purpose bike stand and for 2007, this is my total sales amount. No, you don't have to explicitly say the join columns. That is in your tabular model only. So on what column the join is, that is in your tabular model. You don't have to write it in your DAX query. Okay, so in my next query, I have taken some more, like I've taken the product name, and product is related to product subcategory using there's a snowflake relationship, and subcategory is related to product category. And then you have calendar year, and then you have sales amount and total product cost. So even if it's a snowflake relationship, still it will work. So even if it's not a direct relationship, even then it will work. Like in this case, product subcategory and product category is not directly related to internet sales. It is a snowflake relationship, but still you can see that we can query it. So now what I'm doing is, let's say for all purpose bike stands accessories 2007, I have this much sale. And for 2008, I have this much sale for this same product. Now I can use a roll up function which will give me the total sales of all the years for this particular product. So for it will add an additional row. It is like a subtotal kind of thing. It will add an additional row and roll up and calculate the total sales for that product at the year level for all years. So for that I have used a roll up function. So I am rolling up on the calendar year. So for a particular product, so what it will do is, like in for all purpose bike stand, so it has this much sales for 2007, this much sales for 2008. So it will add an additional row which will give you the sale for all years. So this plus this. So if there would have been data for 5 years, so it will add the data for all those 5 years and display the sum of those 5 years. So for all, so it will do a roll up for at the year for the calendar year. So it is kind of a subtotal kind of thing. So you can see here that all purpose bike stands. So you can see here, so 2007 is there, 2008 is there, and it is adding these two values and displaying it here. So it is rolling up at the year level. Same for AWC logo cap. So it is 2007 value, 2008 value, and it is rolling up at the year level and displaying the total here for the calendar year at the calendar year level. Okay. So now another function that we use is the filter function. So filter function is like the data set that you have. You want to filter that data set based on some condition. So here at the internet sales table, so I'm using the filter condition and I'm putting the sales amount greater than 1000. So all the records which have a sales amount greater than 1000, only those records will be displayed. Rest of the records will be filtered out. Okay. So this will only display those records um, where the sales amount is greater than 1000. Rest of the records will be filtered out. Now the filter function, okay, so here you can see that I have a data set. This is returning me a data set. Okay, and what I'm doing is I'm filtering that data set based on this condition, calendar year greater than 2006. So it will only show me those records where the calendar year is greater than 2006. So I'm filtering out the data set. I'm filtering the main data set based on this condition. Okay, so here it will only show me data for calendar year greater than 2006. So the filter function is very useful when you are trying to make parameterized reports. So what does the parameters do? They filter your main data set, right? You have a main data set, and based on the parameter values, your data set is filtered. So when we are creating, let's say you're creating an SSRS report using DAX. So what you will do is the parameters that you have, that you will pass through this filter. So here you have the filter condition. Instead of the filter, instead of hard coding it, you will pass the parameter as a filter. So what it will do is your main data set that is there, it will filter that main data set based on your parameter condition. So whatever is your parameter condition, let's say your parameter condition is country United States. So you are passing that as a whatever country. So user can select United States or Germany or whatever. So that value will be passed as a filter and it will filter your data set. So you will pass the parameter as a filter. No, they are actually internet sales is a fact table. So it's a combination of the main data set it is a combination of your fact table and dimension tables. Because internet sales is a fact table, product is a dimension table, product subcategory is a dimension table, product category is a dimension table, date is a dimension table, but internet sales, sales amount, total product cost, these are fact table, facts, right? So these facts are related to these dimensions. So the main data set contains dimensions as well as facts. So they're a combination of both. And then you can filter that main data set based on your filter condition. So you can also in SSRS you can also pass parameter as a filter. So based on whatever value the user selects, your main data set will be filtered based on the parameter value. Now there is another function called add columns. So here in add columns, what you can do is I've added a column named net profit, and it is a subtraction of list price and standard cost. So if you want to add a calculated column, you can add a calculated column like this using add columns. You can see here this net profit. This is a calculated column which we have added. No, in DAX query there is nothing like they don't start with fact. So it depends on how you have named your tables in the tabular solution. I'm using the AdventureWorks tabular solution. Here in AdventureWorks tabular, if you look at your tables, there is nothing like fact. It's only internet sales, reseller sales, date, product. So it is not what do you say, the tabular model which we created. I think there is a fact there. Yeah, there is a dim and fact there. But I'm using the AdventureWorks model for querying. So here it is nothing mentioned as fact or dim. That is because in a tabular model, it is not necessarily any table. You cannot specify it as a fact table or dimension table. One table can work as a dimension table, and the same table can work as a fact table also. So both ways it can work. So ideally you don't enough you can, for your understanding, you can think of it as a fact and dimension tables, but ideally they can work both ways, like similar to a fact dimension. So in a fact dimension, the fact table is also working as a dimension table. So same thing, this applies to all the tables here in tabular. So they can work as a fact table, also they can work as a dimension table. Okay, so these are some of the basic DAX queries I just explained to you. So there are a lot more things. I just covered the basics of DAX queries. I mean, if I try to cover everything in DAX, a lot of things are there. So we won't be able to cover everything. So if you want, I have a PDF on DAX, so I can upload that PDF. So it is from Microsoft. So most of the things in DAX are explained there. So these are the basic things which you will require the mostly when you're writing DAX queries. Mostly you will use these functions only: evaluate, summarize, filter, order by. So these are the most commonly used ones which you will use. Okay. So
Indra,
yeah.
Indra, Nila here. How do you use this DAX query in tabular report over there? Because what we saw DAX query as you gave the some column name and you put some calculations.
Yeah.
And how do
So
you
in
use this evaluate and filter all those things?
See, if you're using Excel, then obviously you don't have to create your DAX queries, because if you're using Excel, there is another tool which Microsoft has launched, which is called Power View. It's a data visualization tool which Microsoft has launched in 2012. So it's a very good tool. Lot of charts and data visualization you can do. If you're using Excel or Power View as your reporting tool, then you don't need to write DAX queries or MDX queries. Why? Because these tools, they automatically generate, you just have to drag and drop, and behind the tools the queries automatically gets generated. So the tools, they automatically create their queries. These queries will only, you will have to write these queries when you're creating SSRS reports. So if you're creating an SSRS report from a tabular model or from a multidimensional model, then you have to write your queries in MDX or in DAX. But otherwise in Excel or in Power Pivot, you don't have to write your MDX queries. The MDX queries or DAX queries, because they are the queries are generated automatically by the tool. So it's just kind
So
of a
Excel
drag
and
and
Power View are two different tools, right?
sorry.
Excel and Power View are two different things, two different tools.
Yeah, Excel
Okay.
and Power View are two different. Excel is just, it's a, you can have simple pivot table and charts also you can create, but Power View is a lot more powerful. Like a lot of data visualization, those kind of things. It's a different tool. So it is mainly Microsoft created that tool just to as an ad hoc reporting tool, so that power users, they can use that tool to create their own reports. So it is an ad hoc reporting tool, and lot of lot of features are there for data visualization, like charts and all different percentages you can view there. So that you cannot do in Excel. So Power View, yes, it is a different tool than Excel.
So Power View also uses tabular as well as multi-dimensional cubes.
Yes,
What are they
yes.
based on?
Initially, when SQL Server 2012 was launched, when SQL Server 2012 was launched initially, at that time Power View was only, you could use Power View only with tabular SSAS. But later, when many users who are using multidimensional SSAS, they said that they also want to use Power View. So what Microsoft did is, in a later release, I think in cumulative update 4 or something, they made multidimensional SSAs compatible with DAX. So and DAX and Power View. So now what you can do is you can create Power View reports using tabular SSAs as well as multidimensional SSAs. Previously, it was only tabular, but now Microsoft has made it compatible. One more thing is when you're creating reports using Excel, though it is just drag and drop, it generates MDX query in its background.
Okay.
So it is running an MDX query when you're running Excel. But when you're running Power View, it generates DAX queries in the background.
Okay.
So in the background, it is DAX queries. So these, you have to write your own MDX or own customized MDX queries and customized DAX queries if you're creating SSRS reports. For
Okay.
Excel and Power View, you don't require that. Because these days, actually, what is happening is the trend is that people don't want to spend that much time in creating reports. So they just want tools which you can just connect to the database and you can just drag and drop and create your reports. So that is the trend today. So that is why, developing, writing all the queries and creating reports in SSRS, yes, that takes a lot of development effort and time as well. So that people mostly because users are mostly looking for tools where they can just connect to the database and they can just drag and drop measures and create the reports whatever they want.
Do you have Power View on your machine?
Um, one second. No, I haven't actually. Um, I haven't. Let me see. I have. I think I had installed it a long time back. So I can. It's a add-in. So there are two ways by which you can use Power View. Either you can use it as an add-in with SSRS, so you can use it as an add-in with SSRS and configure the Power View report in SharePoint. So that is one way you can use it. So most businesses, if they use Power View, they will use it that way only. You through SharePoint uh, and SSRS add-in. But in my computer, I don't have SharePoint. So because SharePoint is a lot of server requirements are there, so it is not possible to install it on a local computer. So I don't have SharePoint here. But I had installed the PowerView add-in. So it's an add-in with Excel, but you can only install it with Excel 2013. That add-in does not work with 2010. So that I installed. So yes, I can create Power View reports using that add-in from Excel. But that only works with Excel 2013. It does not work with Excel 2010. But it is very simple to be the the main work is most of the work is your the major chunk of work is creating your ETLs and creating your building your multidimensional SSAS and tabular SSAS. So that is the major chunk of work. Once that is done, creating reports in Power View is just it's a 5 minutes task. It's very simple. You just have to drag and drop the things, and it is very simple to use.
Is that Kilk View or something is similar to this Power View?
Sorry.
Kilk View or something is there, right?
Yeah, yeah. Click view. Yes.
Okay.
Click view is yes. Actually Microsoft developed this Power View as a competition to Click View, Tableau, and all that. So
Okay, okay.
they are kind of data visualization tools. So ClickView actually, ClickView, yes, it is a data visualization tool, and also it uses an in-memory database similar to Tabular. So what Tabular SSAS is an in-memory technology. ClickView also uses an in-memory technology, and on top of it, they create reports based on. They have a data visualization tool based on which reports are created. But yes, it is it is the same as same as Tabular SSAS and Power View, similar to Tabular SSAS and Power
How
View.
come in Power View? Mostly we hear about is ClickView or Tableau, but not Power View. It just came in the market, Power View.
Yeah, right. ClickView and Tableau was there before, but Power View was launched only in 2012. So
Okay,
ClickView was even before that.
okay, okay.
Okay. All right then. So so this brings us to the end of the SSA session. So we have completed the SSAS part. So from next week, I will cover the SSRS reports, how to create SSRS reports, and and also on 24th, there's a so we are not having sessions on 24th, so the next session will be on 25th night, your 25th night. That time will be, we will have the next session, so we'll start with SSRS then. Okay. All right then. So thanks a lot. So I'm ending the session, and I'll upload the video to OneDrive. Okay.